Yeah, great. Okay, so welcome from me. My name's Kusalasara, and we're starting a new series tonight called Revering and Relying on the Dharma. And this is Dharma night, so it's the right place and the right time to be exploring what this might mean. We're going to be this evening. We'll be introducing that theme. We'll be doing some meditation, which always relates to what we're talking about. If you're watching at home or online, not at home, then welcome too, and I hope you can participate in all of the aspects of the class in whatever way works. So, we'll start by saluting the three jewels.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Dhammaya.
Namo Dhammaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Namah.
Namo Namah.
Om.
Om.
Ah.
Ah.
Om.
Om.
As I said, this is Dharma night, and we're starting this series called Revering and Relying on the Dharma. It's probably useful just to say briefly what we mean by the Dharma. Basically, on Dharma night, that's what we're always trying to explore, and there's no kind of final definition, but the word Dharma has two very simple, sort of foundational meanings. One is the Dharma is the teachings of the Buddha, and the whole body of Buddhism since the Buddha, articulating his teaching. It's also the quality of reality that's undiluted, that's perceived straightforwardly without the mind, through the mind, without craving or desire corrupting it. So it's it's reality as it really profoundly, deeply is. So that's what the Dharma is. That's what the Buddha discovered. He in the process of his spiritual life, he opened more and more to that, and that was the nature of his enlightenment, was a realization of the Dharma. So it's something that preceded the Buddha, that his mind was able to, let's say, open up to, become completely at ease with. So, we're exploring revering this. The theme is called Revering and Relying on the Dharma, and it's a way of exploring why we reverence the Dharma in Buddhism, and we're loosely basing it on a paper that one of the teachers in our Buddhist movement wrote, called Revering and Relying on the Dharma. And the premise is that after the Buddha was enlightened, he had these he spent these periods before he became the great teacher that we know about. He spent quite some time sitting, not doing anything. One of the periods that he spent was sitting and gazing at the Bodhi tree under which he'd gained enlightenment. So this seat of practice, and he gazed up in gratitude. And then he moved to a different tree. So there were a series of trees that feature as sort of characters almost in the Buddha's life story. He moved to a different tree, and there he was pondering. It's like, he's pondering what now with his enlightenment experience. And it came to him that even as a Buddha, that he still wanted to revere. So even even though no one else had yet become a Buddha, no one else had become enlightened, so he had no one teacher really to look up to. No one had come so far as him in awakening. He still had this urge that we all have to look up, and he realised that a life without looking up would be painful. And he said, and this is kind of mysterious. He said, and then he realised he could revere the Dharma. So he could revere that aspect of reality that means that humans can become Buddhas, that the mind can awaken, that there's this trend towards growth, and that there are deeper truths that are there to be discovered. And he could revere that. It was still in some way beyond and above him and mysterious to him. Yeah, so that's where the title of this series comes from, and we're going to explore different ways of understanding why we hold that so dear in Buddhism. And tonight I'm going to just start with one aspect of the Dharma, which is exploring. Well, Buddhism has a very particular way of clarifying its teaching by talking about views. And I don't know of any other. My knowledge is quite limited, so it's not. I'm not saying anything with certainty, but I don't know of other religions that sort of have this way of clarifying what thought does and how it directs our experience. So Buddhism is very, very particular about the nuances of thought, unconscious thought, conscious thought, and how it affects our experiences. So that's what we're going to be starting to look at this evening, and I'm going to talk a little bit about wise attention. So, and we're going to use wise attention in our meditation in a minute. We're going to start to work out what that is. So, wise attention is a way of applying our thought, our attention, the ability to perceive things in a way that doesn't overgeneralize it to one direction or another. I'm very prone to this, just like probably most of us. Like, this is awful, or this is amazing, and all it is that, I don't know, some ice cream. It's like, wise attention takes in the whole. It takes in the experience now. It takes in the consequences of an experience. It doesn't hold on to seeing one biased. It doesn't hold on to one biased way of seeing. So we can start to use wise attention in meditations, which is what I'm going to suggest we do in a minute. So we're going to do the practice of the mindfulness of breathing, so paying attention to our breath. And this is a very simple approach that we can use to meditation, is taking the whole range of our experience. So we're paying attention to sensations. We're also paying attention to our emotional state and our mental state. So those three things happen when we concentrate on the breath. And when we're using wise attention, we're looking out for any stories that tell us, that sort of bias us to one aspect of our experience or another. So say if you've arrived, you thought it was a good idea to meditate, and you sit down and it turns out you're feeling really restless, and your whole experience is saying, I just want to spring up and chat to someone or do something. Well, so that might be a dominant part of your experience. You can just ask yourself, well, what else is there? There's this restlessness. What does it feel like? And what else is there? Is there a quieter part of your experience? Is there a part of your body that just feels actually quite happy, contented? If there's any pain or something like that, so you can do this very easily physically, just noticing pleasure in your physical experience, discomfort, and neutral sensations. So just like as I'm doing it now, for some reason, I'm really enjoying the contact. If I give it any thought at all, the contact of my shins and feet on the mat on this. I've got this nice velvety leader's mat. It feels very nice. There's other parts of my experience I'm not aware of at all. And actually, when I notice it, I've also got, I hadn't thought of it till now, very, very slight headache just there. So wise attention is all of the aspects of experience and not trying to push or pull any one aspect away. It's got this quality of unbiasedness. So I've written the name of the paper. It's a paper that, and if you're interested in following up what we're talking about, you can just look it up online. It's a PDF, Revering and Relying on the Dharma by Subhuti. And in a way, he's a very, very clear thinker. So if you enjoy clear thinking and you're interested in the Dharma, then you'll get a lot from it. And also, I'm just sort of using his essay as a starting point, because he said what he's saying much better than I can. So yeah, you might be interested in reading it yourself, this paper. Instead I'm going to draw a picture of an elephant, which he didn't do. So so there's a story, a traditional Indian folk story, and the story is that a group of blind men encounter an elephant, and they want to know what is it like, this elephant, and they're all standing around the elephant and using their sense of touch, which they usually find reliable. They put their hands on a bit of the elephant and describe the bits of the elephant. So we've got ears, distinctive characteristics of the elephant, trunk, tusks, and each of the men, I don't know why it's men, but that's how the story goes, touches a bit of the elephant. So, including the tail. So the question is,
Three-legged.
that's behind. There we go. Did actually go to art school.
It shows.
So one man is feeling the tail, and so the question, what's an elephant like? And he says, well, an elephant is like a rope, because the tail feels like a rope. Someone else is feeling the legs of the elephant, and he says, well, an elephant is like a pillar, or pillars. The one who's touching the ear says, well, an elephant it's like a fan. The one who's touching the trunk says it's like in one version of the story it says it's like a plough, but I don't really buy that. I think he says it's like a snake. The one touching the tusk says the elephant is like a spear. The one touching the body says it's like a granary. The elephant is like a granary. So they've all got their partial experience of the elephant, and from their partial experience of the elephant, they deduce a whole. So that's it. The man who's touching the tail says an elephant is like a tail, and they all start describing the part of the elephant and insisting upon it. They've got the data, so that can't be wrong. An elephant is like a rope. An elephant is like a pillar. An elephant is like a fan, etc. They're insisting upon it, and then they start disagreeing, and then they start arguing quite vehemently, and then they start whacking each other. So they come to blows. So the Buddha is one of the people who tells this story. It's actually sort of it comes out in different traditions, but the Buddha talks about this story. One of the ways that the story ends is that somebody who can see the whole elephant comes along and describes the whole thing. And another version of the story, that instead of whacking each other and punching each other, they all start listening to each other, and between them they create a sense of the whole. But the Buddha talks about how people holding various views, blind and unseeing, and in their ignorance they are by nature quarrelsome, wrangling and disputatious, each maintaining reality is thus and thus. And he describes how they cling and wrangle. So my question is, let's go with the version of the story where they come to blows. Why did that happen? What do you think? Why did it come to blows?
I guess because they were thinking that the other one was saying what they had to say wasn't real, so they felt their reality was denied.
Yes, yeah, that's good. Yeah. Anyone else got a sort of any slightly different way of thinking or something to add to that?
Because they each believe in a separate self, and that they each had objective right.
So say a bit more about that. The objective right.
Like they certainly didn't appreciate that they existed in relationship with each other, and each other only had a subjective view of ultimate reality.
Yeah. So very convinced of their own viewpoint, and well, why is it difficult to admit in other viewpoints? Why is it difficult if you've got a pillar before you? You can feel it, it's definitely there, and someone says an elephant is like a fan. Why is that? What's
And because that's not their experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like they haven't experienced an elephant as a road, like they've only experienced it as a pillar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's true, but why is that threatening in a way?
You have to admit that you don't know.
Yeah.
That you don't know.
Yeah. So there's something, isn't there, very comforting about moving from unknowing to knowing. So from feeling unsure to surety, and that comfort runs extremely deep. So this is why the things that we believe become very, very loaded, and that's why we can see that the troubles of the world come from those convictions being threatened. And that happens on a global political scale. It happens in harmony, in disharmony between individual human beings. And it also happens sort of within our own minds, sort of things. Actually, yeah, maybe I'll get to that a bit later. So we could. What Buddhism says, maybe I'll just say a little bit about views. So there's this word views, and actually, in a way, it's a bit deceptive, the word views, because in a way, what the word views means, it's drishti in Sanskrit. Yeah. Ditthi in Pali, and the word view always means a distortion. So in a way it means a lack of view. So the Buddha often talked about it as being there being a tangle of views, or a forest or a wilderness. It's a place you can get lost. it's wild and confusing. So even in ancient India, in a relatively less complicated society, what the Buddha's disciples and people around would hear many different opinions about what life was and why life was like that, and it created this tangle, thicket, forest, wilderness of views. Not only created, but sprang from. So views are certainties that we hold, and as I said before, unconsciously or consciously, and we adhere to them as if they have absolute value. And so that's when that's threatened. That's when I keep looking to the elephant for support. It's my support elephant. So when that's threatened, something very profound and uncertain is being broached. The possibility of that is opening up. So views make us feel like we're on firm ground in actually an uncertain set of experiences, which is human life. Just to say, so what's views is a bit different from opinions. Views are sort of the things that might underline opinions. So, let me just try and think of a good example. It's fine to have a healthy conviction of things, like, in my opinion, this is better than that. You don't need to get into, I probably should think, I don't know, like always be equivocating. You can have a healthy conviction, but what views do is we sort of solidify an outlook, and then we're not open to other perspectives. And from a Buddhist point of view, we're not open to ultimate reality. It's not that we the Buddha thought we should be open-minded and take in every. Buddhism isn't sort of like a compilation of everybody's point of view added up in the way that the parable might be. It's a clarification, using wise attention more and more deeply and more subtly. It's a clarification about what exactly is going on. So I thought we could look at some of the other ways that we might think about this elephant. So what we've done so far in the project of understanding elephant, we've come to a sort of consensus understanding of the whole elephant. So that's like sort of mundanely undiluted. There's a Buddhist way of thinking about truth. Relative truth is being able to see a piece of rope as a piece of rope and not seeing it as a snake. Do you see what I mean? So then we all come together. We put our knowledge together, and we understand that the elephant is an elephant. So far, so unremarkable in a way. But what other views we might bring to the elephant, depending on how we see things. So, for example, we might think, well, how did the elephant get here? God created the elephant. So that would be a view. So the creator God, Kusalasara, created the elephant. So some people might think that about the elephant, and then you might have ideas about when the elephant dies, what might happen, that it will go to the heaven of that creator God. Somebody else might think, well, the elephant was born merely out of evolutionary processes, and those processes driven by the material world only, and consciousness seems to occur as a byproduct of that. And there's no particular reason for the elephant. It's just a sort of coincidence of material things that have given form to life. So some people might think that. What would be the worldview? What would be the opinion when the elephant dies, if you've got that kind of viewpoint, what do you think would happen to the elephant and its consciousness? What would the logical next step? Dust, yeah. That's it, the end. Philip Larkin says in his amazing poem that sort of describes the emotional fear of this view. He says about death, but at the total emptiness forever, the sure extinction that we travel to and shall be lost in always, not to be here, not to be anywhere, and soon, nothing more terrible, nothing more true. So that could be one thing that might happen to the elephant. You might have ideas about whether elephants are goodies or baddies. So you might think, well, you've seen an elephant rampage through a village, an angry elephant. You might have associations with maybe even evil. You could have an idea that they're always dangerous or even sort of inherently evil. Or you might think the opposite, like they're sort of inherently good. I have to admit, I slightly tend towards that sort of slightly soppy view of elephants as being inherently good. So yeah, your views about the world being divided into good or evil might show up in the things that you encounter, including an elephant. You might, if you're thinking about making some money, you might think, an elephant, what a good business opportunity. If you're, so you might, well, some people would see ivory. Some people might think, well, I can exploit, we could do elephant rides. An artist might think, the muse, it's so beautiful, and just spend the whole time painting the elephant. Someone else might see the elephant as a victim, or maybe this is more related to good and evil. The elephant might be seen as pure or impure. So these are all ways that we see the world that impact our response to things. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is the nature of views where the thoughts that we have are born of convictions that we've got that are often deeply unconscious, and sometimes they're conscious. The conscious thoughts and views that we have are sometimes driven by more murky, ungraspable, quite vague thoughts that we have about the world and our place in it. Maybe let's think about our own conditioning. So it's our conditioning, our experiences in life that inform these views. Yeah. So what are the things that create views? Anybody got any thoughts? What creates a view about, I don't know, good and evil, science versus religion? Ways you might. What creates the way you might see an elephant? What are the conditions?
Your culture, your family.
Yeah, your family. So that's very immediate, isn't it? And what sort of things might they bring to your outlook?
They might raise you to understand an elephant to be a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
If you lived in one of those villages and the elephants were dangerous.
Yeah. What else? What else might your family how else might they influence you? Just think about maybe think less about elephants, but now sort of bring it to your own outlooks and what influences you've had in your life.
But I'd say genetically as well, we're predisposed to be fearful of certain visual properties, which could be like a snake or the eyes of a tiger. We have that sort of hardwired, some more than others.
Yes, yeah. So genetics is part of our conditioning, which will inform our views. Yeah, that's good. Anything else? Language? Who said that?
Language we've grown up
Yeah.
speaking.
So say more about that.
Well, we call it elephant for one.
Yeah.
And I guess the structures of language, and there's some languages will have words for certain things and others won't, and therefore the understanding will kind of follow what the vocabulary is and what the structure of the language is, and sort of all the different connotations for different words and ways of speaking and so on.
Yeah, that's really good. And it's interesting, I was having a discussion yesterday with someone, we were talking about gratitude, and she's French, and she was saying she couldn't think of a way in French to say I am grateful. You form it without the I, and I don't know, I don't speak French, so I don't quite know what that means, but you might say gratitude, but you don't say I am gratitude, which sort of I am grateful. It impacts how you experience things. Okay, anything else? Your experiences, yeah. Okay, so what kind of things?
Like if you've been bitten by an elephant, you might have a negative view.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Can you be bitten by an elephant? I think it can be bitten.
I mean, possibly whacked with its trunk. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and also I was just thinking, sort of in childhood, it was a very formative experience, isn't it? And how like for example, we've probably all had children's books, which wasn't a big thing several hundred years ago. Most children probably didn't have children's books. Maybe there were a few, but not loads. But certainly my childhood was kind of flooded with images, and lots of those were anthropomorphic. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Anthropomorphic. So cute elephants might well have featured like quite a lot. So that sort of thing informs like how we think of the natural world, the animal world, that sort of, yeah. So and in fact, as we get older, the literature we read. Yeah. Anything else?
Elephant TikTok.
That's good. Online content, which is actually, I was just thinking about it. The input that we have is both. Well, a lot of people, what people say is that the algorithms tend to create the same worldview, but I think there's just such a huge muddle of incoherent thought that we get heading our way. So elephant TikTok, or let's just say our worldview is very dependent on the online content that reaches us, and that's going to be advertising. It's going to be all the entertainment. It's going to be the thinker, the people who actually consciously think, as well as the unconscious thinkers. What online content we follow deliberately or sort of secondarily. Yeah. Anything else? I think what I'm trying to find here, what I'm trying to get us to reflect on is, we often have a sense like, oh, this is what I think. I think I'm not the only one. This is what I think. This is how it is. And actually, that our worldview has got nothing to do with our like free thinking. It's just like a kind of big soup of conditions that we very often haven't digested. So and those things can run very deep. So for instance, I wasn't brought up Christian. I went to a Christian primary school. I don't remember very much Christianity going around in our Church of England primary school. And yet, as I practice as a Buddhist, I have somehow imbibed thoughts about good and evil. And it's been so interesting in my Buddhist life, sort of uncovering views about usually about myself, about what's good and what's bad, and what they come down to is a kind of absolute. So at the bottom of views, there's very often an absolute. So often it's very in terms of nihilism. So nothing lasts forever. There is nothing. Versus eternalism. So the eternalist worldview would be exemplified in the idea of heaven. So after death, your soul goes up to heaven or it goes to hell. Very, very black and white. And a nihilistic worldview would be not that nothing matters, but there's nothing more. There's nothing more. It's the materialistic worldview. After death, nothing. There's nothing, and it can lead to a sense a void of meaning. So behind our views, there's often something very, very black and white and very absolute. For some reason, we have a tendency to move in that direction. So I'm good, I'm inherently good, everything I touch is great, or I'm bad, I always knew it, I'm a rotter, look at everybody else. And this might happen in subtle ways. So it might be like in the shrine room, I don't know, everybody's meditating, and you think, God, I'm the only one who's in a right mood in this meditation. Everyone else is kind of having heavenly thoughts. It's all like they're all like blissing out, and I can't get out of my ill will. And behind, so you might start sort of spinning into a story. I have ill will. I'm always like this. There's no help for me. I'm just a wrong 'un or whatever. Do you see what I mean? And it's like the storyteller yourself perpetuates that view, but probably is driven by a sort of emotional view of yourself that sort of creates the story as well. It's very compelling, and Buddhism is way more subtle than that. So what Buddhism is trying to do is not just help us to see the whole elephant. That's just like a good start, like a good common sense start, but see much more deeply into things beyond these absolutes of absolute nothing or absolute something, like an eternal soul that, even the Hindu idea of reincarnation, Buddhism differentiates between. Buddhism isn't saying after death there's like Kusalasara will be reborn as it's saying something much more subtle. So what the Buddhist view, which is called Samyak Drishti, perfect vision. Perfect vision is a little bit like what Sanghadaran was talking about standing at the top of the mountain. It takes in everything, which we can finally get to after a lot of practice and rigorous mind watching, sees conditionality exactly as it is, and that's that everything that is part of a big pattern, a pattern of existence of causes and conditions, and that applies even to ourselves. That we're not either nothing and we're not either something. The elephant isn't either just dust, and nor is it going to sprout angel wings and fly up to heaven. The elephant is part of the patterning of existence, and moment to moment, everything is born out of previous moments, and gives rise to the next moment. So, for example, even the sense of self that we have, the idea of ourselves, which we think of as so separate and so distinctive, Buddhism is challenging that and saying, you're not what you think you are. You're not a distinct and separate self. You're not sort of, I don't know, like an actor on the stage. That's like the world exists, you come on for a while and then leave. Everything is part of a network of interrelated conditions. And everything affects everything else. So our sense that we are discrete and separate is part of a wrong view, is part of what the Buddha saw through, the delusive way of seeing things. Well, in a way, like that's true. I mean, not in a way, that's true, but I think we need to talk about it in a more compelling way, because I personally find the idea of a self that isn't fixed and separate not that attractive unless I fill it with other positive qualities. So Buddhism often talks about emptiness, for example, emptiness of self, emptiness of fixed self. But actually, what that is something much more magnificent. So the emptiness is an emptiness of a kind of constricted way of seeing things, and allows, if we see that, we're seeing something more vast and more beautiful. So I'm just going to talk about some ways that we might see the elephant, and then I think we'll end with a short meditation. So I was talking about wise attention, and wise attention leads to actual wisdom, prajna, which is a Buddhist realization of truth. Wise attention includes a kind of wisdom that's mirror-like. It reflects things exactly as they are. It reflects things without bias, without emotional bias, without distortion, without investment in things being one way or the other. That mirror-like wisdom doesn't require conceptual interpretation, for example. So it's like we can see the elephant or one another, or anything, or a shrine, or ourselves, without it needing to be anything other than it is. It's patterned, it's part of the conditioned nature of things, and it's unbiased. That way of seeing is unbiased by greed or hatred. Like there's no need to push anything away or pulling anything towards you. So that's one thing that can happen when we're practicing. Another way of seeing is that the elephant is part, as I was saying, as part of the patterned whole, that it's of the same nature of everything, that we're all of the same nature, as in we're not going to last forever. We haven't the same, we're not fixed and separate. That there's a pattern that's running through the whole of reality, the whole of the cosmos, that it's called in Buddhism the wisdom of sameness, that this kind of uniting experience that we tend to overlook. The other way of seeing it is with just seeing the particularities, like the particular wonder of anything. It's easy to see wonder in an elephant. They're so sort of extraordinary. But when we start to see with this kind of wisdom, the wisdom of discernment, everything, the particularities, the miraculous flowering of every aspect of conditionality that's happening in the moment, as well as being infused by sameness, the same quality, the same patterns, it produces unrepeatable, magnificent, beautiful, notice-worthy things, and that's each and every person, each and every creature, each and every situation. You see everything as precious, So this is also a quality of wisdom. You see the unity of everything and the precious particularity, the uniqueness of everything as well. And you also see the patterning of everything as potent. So you can sort of have a sense that this sameness is not just repeated patterns, but there's a potentiality in everything that's leading towards growth, that everything kind of has this possibility of self-transcendence, of freeing itself from delusion, and that's us, that's nature, that's the world, that's all. It's all threaded through every part of reality. So wisdom, when we start to bring out wise attention, we start to pay attention without bias, without wanting things to be one way or another. We see this with this clarity, we see with this lovingness, we see the kind of uniqueness, the unity, and we see with our hearts, in a way, more than our minds, the potential of everything, that there's this kind of wonderful possibility in the universe. And that's the Buddhist vision, and that's what's behind the next step with the image, the fable of the elephant. We come to clarity, we come to understand what something is, what it really is, but then we see what the nature of things is, and we see the nature of us, and we see the nature of others, and that's loving, awe-filled, and wondrous, and we get to that by not overgeneralizing about certain things, about not sticking to our stories. So just one more thing to say about views. Like, even the right idea views aren't just the thoughts, but they're the attitudes we have to them. So Buddhism, if we hold it in the wrong way, becomes what we call wrong view. So if I go around, it's hard not to do too much of an exaggeration. Well, I mean, I think this can happen. We start practicing ethics, for example. We learn about ethics in Buddhism. We start practicing. We see the benefits, and we feel ourselves becoming better people. But we notice the people around us aren't practicing ethics. They haven't been to a class yet, and then we start being quite judgmental about their behaviour. So this can happen, and that we start to hold Buddhism in the wrong way. We start to use it in a slightly distorted way, and then even the best things can become wrong. They can become part of the thicket and tangle of views. Does that make sense? And the Buddha taught about Buddhism being held, the Dharma being misunderstood. He said it's like a water snake being held by the tail, in which case it will come and bite you. If you hold it behind its head, it can't bite you. So even because of the nature of human minds and human negative emotion to distort things, even the purest sacred teachings can become part of what brings people to blows, what brings people who can't see the whole to start fighting, disagreeing and fighting. Yeah. So okay, I think that's all I want to say. I think I would like us to have another chance at just sort of developing our own faculty of wise attention. So we're going to sit in meditation, and the quality that I want you to bring is a quality of openness. So, and maybe it's a bit like, let's feed some sort of ideas in. So one thing you might do is just sit and think, what's it like just to think, I don't know? Let's sit with this quality of unknowingness. Like, I don't need to know. Maybe that's it. Like, why do I need to know? And then also notice any assumptions that are coming into your mind. So sometimes it can be stories about why you can't meditate, like it's too tired, like why is Kusalasara making us meditate at this time of night? It's obviously way too late. I can't concentrate. You know, so that will come with a whole set of views. So just go, okay, is that true? And just allow for another side of it to come in. Yeah. So sitting with this unknowingness, maybe see if you can enjoy that unknowingness. Like maybe it's better not to know, because something better might come in. Sitting with unknowingness, and just noticing when you grip with a certain set of assumptions. Okay, let's give that a go.